So I'm not surprised that this session gets very popular. I know it's not because of me, that would be nice, but it's because we are talking about CSS and because it's a mess. And it will get messier. I don't think that it will get easier and easier because today, with thanks to the power of the web and with HTML and CSS, of course, we can do pages, okay, to display some text and images. And this is fine. I mean, it was why we created HTML at the first place. But then today also with these technologies, you can create interactive animations. You can create web applications with a completely different design. You can also create mobile applications with technologies such as PhoneGap, for instance. You can just create layout for applications and deploy it on the App Store and the Android Google Play marketplace. So, but we have to trick everything. We have to play with HTML and CSS. Okay, it's part of the game. So the goal of this session is to show you what Adobe is doing to help you with Dreamweaver. But so these are the CSS properties I had to learn by heart when I was working in a web agency in 1999 in Paris. And these are the CSS properties available today. Okay, so this is why we feel that in applications such as Dreamweaver, we cannot just display a list. And it was the case, you know, with even with Dreamweaver CS6, when you wanted to get and apply a CSS property, we would just display a list and say, okay, pick the CSS property. It's inside, it's somewhere. So that's why they introduced in Dreamweaver CC the CSS Designer panel, which really makes your life easier. So it's all about styling. When we talk about styling with CSS, we want to style text. So there is one of the biggest challenge in web design is how can I create a mock-up in Photoshop, for instance, and get exactly the same result at the end on the web. Because usually the customers are disappointed. They feel that the Photoshop mock-up looks better, and 99% of the times it's mainly because of text and typography, because we are not exactly using the same fonts and the same anti-aliasing algorithm. And also when we style, we just style now div elements. So we are not producing tables anymore with a tr, td, td, tr. Now we want to style div elements, and some web designers are very talented. So what you see here is just a div. It looks like a keynote effect to display this picture with the singer, but this is just a div with CSS shadows. Okay, so let's see how we can play with Dreamweaver today and this real new experience. So what is new? I will start from scratch. So first, what we introduced yesterday in Dreamweaver CC is what we call the expanded live view. Okay, so you are all Dreamweaver users, so you are all aware of the live view, which basically will launch a browser, okay, WebKit, a rendering engine for HTML and CSS directly within Dreamweaver. And the engineers have added so many features that now we estimate that the live view should become the default view. That normally you won't need to switch back to the design view anymore. You should be able to do anything in the live view, which introduces a great new way of working, because usually we go back and forth from the code or the design view and then the live view, or with a browser. You have the live view here. Eventually you can display the code just to check what's happening. There is the classic insert panel. So let's start with something. Okay, a div, and what you can directly do here. So first you can hit Command T or Control T on Windows and edit the tag. Okay, so that's directly accessible here, so I don't have to find where this is in the code. Okay, and say, okay, this is my banner, for instance. So this is a way you can work like this, and in the live view you will directly see the IDs if you want to attach some CSS properties directly to this element. What you can also choose to do, and I really like it, is that when you select an element in the view, you can click on the plus here and create a CSS class. If you, so now something is defined, actually you don't have to check if it's true, okay? You can trust Dreamweaver. If you don't trust Dreamweaver, it happens, you know, in a relationship when you, at the beginning. So if you don't trust it, you just have to right-click and say go to code. Okay, so now if you check the code view at the bottom, it will jump to this new file that has been automatically created by Dreamweaver, and I can edit the CSS properties. Or directly from the live view, I can just select it here and open my CSS designer panel. So now I'm ready to work. Okay, so I have the CSS properties here with several categories: layout, text, then the borders, the background, and the custom properties. The team really tried to do something more visual so that you can understand what's going on. So if I edit here, okay, let's create a 300 height banner. Okay, you can create, add some margins here. If you want to edit the margin, you see a live feedback directly here in the live view. We are not in the design view anymore. So this is the final result. So live feedback. So I will jump to the background category, and then just add a color. You can also add a gradient. So you don't have to go to a website, you know, to generate a CSS gradient. You can directly do it here. Add several steps, and make sure you do something very cheesy, such as this one. Okay, so let me try to do something more like in LA. And you can also add an image, JC big. Okay, JC big should be a big one. Okay, thank you. Then I will, okay, copy the file here. And something that is really nice is that you can directly access, because this is something that is very difficult to manipulate with a CSS. So a very classic trick now, what you will see on more and more websites, we don't place images anymore. Usually you will see more and more div elements where the image is in the background, because you can easily place constraints, layout constraints, so that when you resize a window, you will clip the area that you want to display of the image. So to do so, we have several properties, starting with the background position, or if you want to make sure that it's always centered, okay, the topic of your, so let's say that the topic of your picture is always in the center, that you can put 50%, 50%. And regarding the size, of course, you can do a fixed size or a percentage for the background, but you can also do cover. And this is the one I use all the time. So you see, if you resize, it will always be centered and cover all the space. After, there is the box shadow. Again, I will have feedbacks in real time. Okay. So very, very nice. The kind of experience I would get in Photoshop, and now directly with the CSS. Okay, and I am not a big fan of shadow. Okay, so this is just for today. They should add something like long shadow for flat design hipsters, but yeah, maybe maybe in the next release we should add a CSS designer panel for hipsters. Okay, let's work a little bit on the text because I want to show you something. So first, regarding the size, okay, we do something like 50. By the way, you can directly edit the text in the live view, so I don't have to go back to the code, okay? So I will say, okay, welcome to Max, and change the line height. Okay, good. Adobe Edge Web Fonts is a great opportunity for you as designers to make a difference on the websites. I'm part of this trend that says that typography is more than 90% of web design. Okay, it's the most important part. And when you choose a font, you already choose an emotion. You already tell a story. Okay, so choosing a typeface is very important. And the Adobe Edge Web Fonts is just a gift. Okay, it's a catalog of more than 500 web fonts that are free, and you can use it on your website. There is no limitation. Okay, so we partnered with Google. So all the Google web fonts, I'm sure you know the Google web fonts, they are available inside. And usually what you have to do with web fonts, you have to choose the web fonts, choose the eventually a style, and then copy-paste some JavaScript so that it can load the font. Here, Dreamweaver will do the work for you. And you even have here some tools to say, I want a font optimized or recommended for titles, for headings, or recommended for text. Do you want sans serif, serif, slab serif, script, black letter? Okay, you just have to click and it will filter the list automatically. In Illustrator, I'm still debating a little bit. I think that it's one of the best tools for web designers. So of course you can use it to create SVG files, just small icons, but also to create mockups. And there is also a technology in Illustrator that is not very famous, but you can extract CSS properties directly from Illustrator. So here, for instance, the rectangle with the gradient, it will generate the CSS on the right. Okay, so that's very, very neat. And if you are well organized, you could do something like this. Okay, so let me open HTML file here in Dreamweaver. So for the moment, I just have my div elements, and I mapped the DOM and the hierarchy with the names between Illustrator and Dreamweaver. So what you can do is select everything, and say, I want to export the CSS. I will call it Michael. What it will do is that it will not only extract the CSS properties, but also generate all the images that are in Illustrator. So it will take all the layers and generate PNG files, JPEG files, keeping the same names, so that if I move here and I say I want to import now michael.css, here we go. I have everything coming from Illustrator. So I am an evangelist, so it looks magical, okay, but it's because it's very organized, designed in advance, all the naming, etc., but it works. So it's a PSD file, and I can share it with someone, maybe a web developer, who doesn't have Photoshop, who is not a member of the Creative Cloud. So he will receive an email, say, oh, here is my PSD file. He will click on the link, and he will find this UI. He will be able to play with my layers directly in the browser. He will be able here to get, to find all the fonts. Sorry, it's in French, but you will get it, okay? All the fonts that I've used, all the colors, all the gradients. Say, okay, this one is nice. If he clicks on the gradients, he will get the CSS to generate the gradients directly. If he clicks on this shape, he will get the CSS to define the shape. If he needs just this picture, okay, from this layer, he can click here and say, generate a PNG or a JPEG directly from this layer. And he will download the image. And this directly in the browser. Now, let's say that he wants to know, okay, what is the space between the title and this block? You select something, you press Shift, and then you get the dimensions, the space between the elements. The Dreamweaver team, I guess they got jealous to say, okay, that's great, but we want the same. I don't know what happened exactly. So what they have now, I'm starting here with a stupid HTML file, okay, some divs, empty CSS, there is nothing. And I will open this new panel called Extract that is connected to my Creative Cloud accounts. So it will list all the PSD that I've designed, but also all the PSD that I've shared, that have been shared with me, maybe from another designer working in the team. And now I can directly work in Dreamweaver. On the left, it's like having Photoshop under my eyes. I have the live view, it's like having the browser under my eyes, and then the CSS designer panel. And this environment is unique. let me show you how we can work today. So I will select the parent tag here. And hero banner, it relates to this, okay, to this guy. And I want to get the same. So what I could do is say, okay, I want to copy the CSS from here. So I want to create a new class. I will say, okay, I want to style my banner. Create a new CSS class. And if you start coding some CSS, you see here, okay, it's the first time it's not easy to understand. But the properties here are coming from Photoshop in the cloud. Because I selected this image, you say, okay, do you want to set the dimensions? Yeah. Oh, and there is an image. Do you want to put it in the background? Yes. The image doesn't exist at this point on my disk. Okay, it's in the cloud. So I would say, okay, I want a JPEG. Say, okay, it's coming. So it will extract from the PSD on the Creative Cloud, and now it's on my disk. I have the JPEG. Also, what you can do is directly from here, drag and drop, and create an image. So from the PSD in the cloud, it will extract the layer and create an image. And now you have an image tag that you can use. And okay, I will say style logo, something like this. And you remember that you could get the dimensions. So I know that it's 51 pixels from the left and 20 from the top. So now I can use the CSS designer panel and put 20 from the top and 51. You know, so maybe you want to do something like this, responsive web design, where you have CSS media queries, and depending on the screen resolution, you know, you can change how to display the elements on your page and modify the layout. In Dreamweaver, there is already this mode called the fluid grid mode. You know the fluid grid layout that you can use. It will define for you CSS media queries with a grid. Okay, and you can say this element is 4 columns, but for the tablet it will be 6 columns. So it's a way to create a fluid grid elements, but when you start a project like this, it's empty. And it's not easy to learn. So in the new version of Dreamweaver, and I really like this, they have introduced this notion of starter templates. And you can say, okay, I want to get a template, maybe it will look like a blog post or the about page, and it will create a responsive page where you will already get the CSS media queries, and you can extend. You don't start from scratch. And you have even the placeholders. So it says here, I'm waiting for an image, 259 by 259. So it's very, very neat. And here at the bottom, I can say, okay, I want to check the look of my website on a mobile device. I see it's 1 column on the tablet, on the desktop.